then it takes a couple of weeks for it to get auctioned off, and then a couple of weeks for the payment if you're lucky, and all that other fun stuff. You're talking about a couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe. Are you guys looking to play in that sphere? Is that something that's coming?
Luca Nation, episode 610. Think about that. 610, man. We wouldn't be here without you guys. We wouldn't be here without our community, but we also wouldn't be here without great guests. And I wanted to invite our good friends over at My Slabs back onto the show. So 3-4 months ago, we had Ken and Matt on. And I think what's cool about My Slabs is it's a business that adds value to the marketplace, but they've been behind the scenes for a very long time. You know, no one really talks about them in a negative light, which is rare in the hobby because card porn scopes everybody out. But these guys just deliver value to the end consumer, both to the buyer and to the seller through a peer-to-peer marketplace. Takes 1% sales fee and lets you be on your merry way. So we said, you know, love you guys. All's awesome. If you ever have an update, come back on. So you guys saw maybe 2-3 weeks ago, there was a post on Instagram. They're now accepting raw cards. So we got a million questions. We wanted to get some answers. So we brought them on. Here we are chatting behind the scenes. They're also making it easy for you guys peer-to-peer and international because we have a big following. Well, Cage has a big following in Australia. So
I'm also big in Sheboygan.
That's true. All of our international people, they might want to stay tuned and listen to this episode for how you could buy high-end cards from here to the US, all the way to Europe, Australia, etc. So Ken, Matt, welcome back to the show. It's good to have you guys on and excited to share a little bit about kind of the updates coming from the chocolate factory, from My Slabs.
Good afternoon, guys.
Yeah, guys, it's really a pleasure, man. I you know, all that aside, I watch you guys every week, all the time. You know, maybe not every day, you know, but I try to. So I watch you guys at least 5 times a week.
Did you watch our show last week from Atlanta?
You know, that might not have been.
What episode was it, Cage?
I don't. It was like 599 or something like that. It was. The episode title is Andrew drops a bomb on Atlanta.
Yeah.
If you haven't, so there's a lot of play on words with my titling, right? So one, obviously, if you're old enough, you remember the 1996 Atlanta bombing, which is not something to be joking about. But it was more of because for the first 20 minutes of the episode, if you haven't listened, please go back. It's literally my favorite 20 minutes of anything we've done in 610 episodes plus our whatnot shows.
This is how I fly into Culture Collision, Ken.
So basically, I don't want. We already have an episode, so you can go back and listen to it. But Andrew spends the first 20 minutes talking about how he was taking a dump in the airport because that's the thing he likes to do when he flies.
And then
ended up someone walked in on him. He lost his passport. It was like a whole ridiculous story, which I loved. I think it was great content because Andrew, just like he is right now, he's stuck in Mexico. He's just there working. I don't let him go to parties. Like, he's in Mexico, but he's not partying. He's not doing, like, spring break. He's not out there, you know, doing any kind of drugs whatsoever. He's working 24/7. When he's not asleep, he's awake, building up the podcast. So I love that he went to Atlanta because he had a story. Of course, the story was about how beagles were attacking him because he brought weed on the plane with him in international air. But whatever. It was a funny story.
All that's taken out of context. Listen to the episode. Ken, welcome back on the show.
Take it all out of context.
Yeah. No,
it's funny.
Sure, I think the last episode I watched, I was actually listening to last night, was one with, like, I don't know, man, you guys are like deep in the weeds talking about Nemo and
yes,
you know, and all that. Like, it was, you guys are really
the ecosystem,
you know,
yeah, right? Your ecosystem,
with plankton and all that. Like, I'm like, damn,
same question to you, Ken. Is Gary good for the hobby? He's buying LeBron rookies.
He's buying them, or he already bought them, and now
he bought them from My Slabs. And is he good for the hobby? Yes.
If you bought them from us, sure.
There we go. Listen, I'm gonna say something, and I told these guys this behind the scenes, right? It's nice to have somebody on. We get a lot of DMs, and I love every one of them, and I respond to every one of them. Right now, I don't have any unread DMs, but people will tell us what people are doing well. People will tell us what people are doing bad, right? People will tell us all kinds of stuff, right? And we've never had anybody say anything bad about you guys, which is pretty crazy. And it doesn't make for a good episode because I want to be able to read you a DM or a message that says, "Oh my God, those My Slabs guys, they screwed me out of my money," or it's juicier that way, It's like National Enquirer. So I went and I looked on Facebook. And I said, let me go find some crappy reviews on Facebook. Let me go get one. So let me just read you the first 2 reviews on Facebook. You ready? These are
Matt's
biting,
nervous.
Matt should be nervous because he's mentioned by name in the second
Oh,
one.
nice.
Wow.
Right? So he should be nervous.
Well, should I put a helmet on for this one?
Nervous. Put a helmet on. So here you go, guys. This is it. We tell everybody, if you come on the show, get ready to get in the cage. It's gotcha time. You guys are going to be sorry. Here we go. Number 1, amazing site to use for both buyers and sellers. Great deals on cards and the best protection for sellers available on a major marketplace. 2 thumbs way up. That's the first review on My Slabs. It's as if you guys wrote it yourself, which is pretty crazy.
Sounds like my mom.
It sounds like your cousin. And you're ready, Matt? Sorry. I have to mix a bad one in. But here you
All right,
go,
give
Matt.
it to me.
You ready?
Here we
Give
go.
it to you. I completed my first 3 transactions yesterday, right after I posted. Everything's working well. Matt is so nice. Thank you very much for your help. Much appreciated.
I was ready for like a real Bob.
I wrote My Slabs reviews, Facebook, boom, pops up. This is what you get. How am I supposed to work with this? Can you guys do something?
I could read you a few private messages where people tell me to go screw myself.
No, come on. I'm building you up here. Come on now. Listen, here's what my take is, and tell me what I have it wrong, right? You're trying to build a peer-to-peer network. You're trying to build something where, I try to social sell, right? I'm lucky. We have a Whatnot show. People come on. I sell stuff way too cheap on Sunday mornings, and we're going to continue that, right? We give people bargains. But I've tried to list my stuff on my story. I tried to list my things on my Instagram story myself, and I say, hey, I got a Joe Burrow PSA 10 Prism Orange color match, right? I should be getting 1,000 people responding to me on this. I put it up on my story, right? I got this Trey Young 2018 Prism PSA 10 purple out of 75 right after he drops 50 points. Like people should be all over it. But you know what? There's too many places to look, right? And all the eyeballs are not coming to I don't care how many followers I have. I don't have that many. But clearly, that's not the way to do it. So yours is a good way to do it. You have enough people looking at it. And it's the same thing, maybe even easier, as me trying to take pictures of it and put it up on my story. But you now have it on a platform that also takes care of the transaction and an arm's length deal, right? You escrow the money, you do all this fun stuff, you make sure nobody gets screwed. And what do you charge? What's the percent? Is it 20% buyer's premium? Is it like a 10%, 12, 13 with like eBay fees? What's the percent?
It's right now it's 1 on each side for slab.
1%. So
right. 1%
I mean
1% seller.
I think we should end the episode, Andrew. What are we supposed to do? Seriously, and guys,
Ken,
they're not paying me for this. We're not sponsored. There's nothing here.
It's true.
I mean, it's there right now. There are a million places to go to buy cards, but why would you pay more than percent? Why would you do that? Obviously, you have the same protections. Do you have? Let's talk about that. Do you have the same protections on your site for the buyer and the seller as they would have anywhere else? What kind of protections do you have for both sides?
Well, I think we have better, to be honest with you. To your point, social platforms, I've been on them forever. I used to run a couple of the high-end rooms on Facebook. Actually, they're, still run them. They're still open. It's just people have shifted away from that. The interactions, I tried selling stuff in a Michael Jordan room on Facebook this weekend, and it was brutal. I posted things at a really considerable deal below comps. People were still coming in, just lowballing, and then claiming things and not paying. So I think people are fed up with that. As for our protection, you guys know we vet all of our sellers. They're put through I don't want to say rigorous screening process, but they're forced to give us enough information, verifiable information out of the gate that we can say yay or nay. And we have enough information in our database and connections that we pretty much already know who most of the bad players are. So a lot of times when a name comes through that we know has had an issue somewhere, they don't make it in. I personally screen the buyer database constantly for probably 1,000 different names. And from that point, I kind of cross-reference addresses, PayPal accounts. We're constantly removing people. In that sense, I don't think any other platform does that. We also have, which I don't want to get too deep into to give away the secret recipe, we have a lot of blocks in place for when a bad buyer or a bad seller is removed from the platform so they can't get back on. And I'm not going to go into detail with what those are, but it's virtually impossible to get back on if you've been removed. And that doesn't mean they've screwed somebody over on our platform, because to date, I think there's been one deal that was questionable, like someone may have lost out, but I found out in the end, the seller that didn't insure the package and wanted us to pay for it actually had personal insurance on it and had already, reclaimed that. It was a very functional situation, but that's the only situation in about 120,000 transactions where we believe somebody may have lost out, and it was so bizarre, nobody could make heads or tails out of it.
Happens.
I mean, I think the reason My Slabs works, and again, I can't personally take credit because it was around a couple of years before I came aboard. But really, it's the truth of it is, like, back in 2017, 2018, when it all started, I guess, eBay, especially in terms of peer-to-peer, eBay was everybody's go-to. It still is, for the most part. I guess what are the things that you don't like about eBay? And then essentially
work backwards.
Right, and go backwards. It's exactly what it is, right? Like, so it's
So I have a question for you guys, right? So nobody wants to touch raw cards. Nobody wants to deal with raw cards from a business perspective, right?
We've been asking them for 12 months. No one wants to.
No one wants to touch raw cards. We
right?
Yeah, but even eBay now, anything above $750 has got to go through authentication, which is not a terrible thing. I'm seeing a lot of posts about things not passing authentication, which is always a good thing. I'm not 100% sure, who's authenticating them, the whole 9 yards, but it is what it is. But so tell me, eBay doesn't really want to be in raw cards above $750, and the other companies that came out that were trying to do raw, they're not looking to do raw anymore. They want to do NFTs and box breaks and stuff. Why is it different with you guys? Why do you where are you going to succeed with raw where everybody else has failed, and why?
If I could just start, Matt.
Shoot.
Yeah, I think one thing is that, if we want to just look at StarStock, because they're the most recent, example that was doing a ton of raw. I think that StarStock is just their model, with having a vault and just having all that stuff on hand, and obviously having to have all the staff, to intake that stuff, to catalog, curate that stuff and store it and ship it, and everything in between. Like, I just think that I think it's pretty obvious that model, it's hard to be profitable, doing all of that. You
would need a team of Oompa Loompas like Willy Wonka running around the vault all day, moving cards from one place to another.
And putting golden tickets in.
Yeah. I think StarStock, to be honest, I think it was a good platform. It's a good service. I know a lot of guys talk, very positively about what they offered. I just think it's an example of something that's a good service, and that's something people can really get behind and buy into from a consumer perspective, but it just doesn't make a good business, right? Because it just, obviously everything involved, and kind of bringing that to the table on the back end just doesn't really make it a good, from a profit perspective. So I think, as far as what we bring to the table, I think the biggest thing that we have going for us in terms of, being able to take on something like raw, is the vetting on the front end. Obviously people, that are, and also, obviously we vet sellers when they come in, but we also hold buyers to a very high standard, and we have a very low threshold for BS. So, if people aren't, people are trying to get over, and people are trying to return things for the wrong reasons, and people are, not describing and representing their inventory properly when they list on site, those people are going to be gone. And I think that that's why I think, My Slabs, of anyone, I think we have a chance to make this kind of thing work. It's for that reason. If you have all these other platforms where, you just, especially eBay, right? eBay is like a peer-to-peer, and they're a huge public company, so they can't vet the way we do, right? Like, they can't, what would the optics of that be in the public if eBay is like turning, people down that want to jump on the platform? They just can't do it just because of who they are, right? So it's So, like I said, obviously they have to resort to being everybody's, mommy, to everybody, and just kind of getting in between, and obviously getting possession of the cards, verifying the cards. Like they just have to police it at a level that's just, like,
much more lenient than Matt right here. So I do want to. By the end of this episode, I do want you to read us your DMs. Tell me if I'm totally crazy here. The big advantage you have over. The big advantage you have, Ken, is the fact that people don't actually have to ship their cards anywhere, right? They just list them, right? With eBay, you have to send your cards to eBay. They authenticate. With StarStack, you have to send your raw cards to them. They have to intake them. With MySlabs, you take a small percentage, 1% on both sides, but the seller, all they have to do is, hey, use my phone. Beautiful photo, beautiful photo. There's a drop down for the condition. And you're all set to go, right? If you're a verified seller.
Yeah. I mean, listen, obviously up until very recently, eBay was doing it that way as well. And it didn't work, clearly. I mean, obviously they're, try to paint it as, it's, they're doing like the, the authentication, and I get that. And that's great. But, I mean, personally, I think that, that sounds good. And that's a good story. And that's definitely an added service. But I mean, how many people are having problems with, I've been buying cards on eBay for years. I never had a problem with like the authentication, of a card or what have you. And, I think clearly on the back end, they were probably getting annihilated with chargebacks. And they, in order to, you notice now with this new system they put in place, it's all sales are final, unless the seller says otherwise. If you read their terms and conditions, which is a real departure for eBay, right? So I think that, by getting that extra set of hands, those third-party hands in the middle of the process, and obviously also after having gotten away from PayPal, they brought all the payment processing in-house. They just have they're positioning themselves in a way, I think, that just enables them to be much more judge and jury over just returns and chargebacks and all of that. So I think from an eBay perspective, I think that is probably, and I don't know, I'm not behind, closed doors there. So I don't know, I'm just speculating, of course, but I think that something along those lines has to be their real motivation in all of this, as opposed to just doing everybody a favor and authenticating. Like, I think it's, just one man's opinion, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the problems some of the other companies saw was there was too much white collar and not enough guys from the industry involved. Realistically, we were confident enough. Everybody in the company has been in the collectibles industry for decades, literally. We have the ability, and we've put on, extra help to comb the raw and slab sections for counterfeits, fakes, altered cards. I just, I had to pull something from the raw section yesterday. I was combing through looking for some cards for an ad, and I happened to see something stick out, and it was pulled immediately. And we have several other notable individuals from the industry doing that for us as well. So it's kind of about confidence and confidence in who we are, I guess. We've all been around long enough that we felt we could, at least test the waters with raw cards.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, right? I mean, listen, obviously Matt and I really worked hard on trying to put together the condition guidelines and just, trying to set up a structure where you're giving people a framework to convey condition to one another and set expectations to one another. And, we do the best we can. And, I mean, listen, obviously, nothing's ever going to be perfect. But we felt that we at least have a good foundation to start from. And we'll certainly make whatever changes are necessary as time goes on.
Yeah. I'm curious. This may be going a different direction, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if we're how to word this. Like, we're in pretty uncertain times. Like, I'm curious myself. What's the future of the collectibles space? Oh, and Ken, you came in 3 years ago, right? So I'm curious.
My slabs?
Into my slabs.
About a year, literally about 1 year ago.
It's 1 year ago. So you're a collector your whole life. Now you get to see. When you come into a business, you see it from the outside first. You have your kind of assumptions of how it works, and then now you're inside. Is there anything that surprised you? Anything you learned? Anything that you might give advice to younger Ken and say, "Hey, look out for this," or think about this? I'm curious, like, if you could give a little bit of like a 101 of the collectibles industry and how it's changed in your eyes.
Oof, man, that's a lot of meat on that bone.
Well, you got to understand, we hop on here every day with the intention to add value to the listeners, right? Because they're tuning in, they're giving us their time. Time is more valuable than money. I've been told that. So I always want to value people's time and make sure that they leave with something. And you guys have the privilege of seeing the marketplace from a different angle, a different direction than our listeners, right?
So listeners that are considering being like entrepreneurs in the business or collectors, or what kind of advice would I give?
They're all collectors. We have a few lady listeners. I've met them in Atlanta. Yes, they listen. They want to hear my voice, but 99.9% of listeners collect cards.
Right. So to give advice as a collector, Ken the collector?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that if there's anything that, actually, this is I don't know if I said this last time I was on. But it's actually, as a collector, it's been an interesting exercise for me because I was, very involved in the card hobby for many, many years, and comic books as well, original comic book art, and that's actually how I met one of the co-founders of My Slabs, like 20 some odd years ago, and that's how we became friends, was through the hobby. And I actually, like a few years ago, I largely sold out of my collection before the boom, unfortunately. And I did like a 6-figure renovation on my house, and I was starting a business, and I just needed the money, right? So like my collection was a place that I went to, and so I largely sold out of everything. So when I came back, when I got the offer at My Slabs and came into the business, I mean, naturally you're in it every day, so you get that the fever to start collecting again and all of that. So for me, it's I've actually, I know a lot of people say to themselves, hey, like if I could start over fresh, like how would I do it? What would I do different? Well, I was actually in that situation, right? Like I was actually, just because of how everything played out, I was actually had the opportunity to start fresh, and and I think a lot of things that, just talking to a lot of collectors and seeing what a lot of people do, like I think it's a lot of people, you're in the hobby, and I think it's very easy to kind of get caught up in that like shiny new thing, kind of thing that happens, right? Like you just see this new player or this new card or what have you, and I think a lot of times people end up buying things that maybe for the wrong reason. And
just because an asset's up 100% doesn't mean it's a good buy, and just because an asset's down 50% doesn't mean it's a bad buy.
Yeah, right. And also, I think people, and listen, it's different for different people, and obviously, there's no one right way to do this. But I think it's very important for the individual to really understand yourself as a hobbyist, right? I don't even want to say collector or investor. I mean, you could be both, right? You can just you're a hobbyist, but I think it's really important for people to take the time and really get to know yourself and like what makes you tick as a hobbyist, and like what are you doing this for? Are you somebody that's nostalgia driven? Are you somebody that is very just looking at this as an alternative asset, and you want to flip this stuff, and you're doing it more as an investment, and that's okay too. I mean, I personally tend to be more of a collector, and I really genuinely like. Yeah, I mean, listen, I want to know that I'm not throwing my money away, like like I did in the past. Obviously, I spent a lot of money on collectibles, and when I needed it for
what
real
was
life.
your worst buy? What was your worst buy? Absolutely, like you had conviction and it just went the opposite way, like a looks rare, for example, or My Little Orphan.
To be honest with you, a lot of my worst buys, and and I'm definitely guilty of it. Like sometimes, like I'll make impulsive purchases, right? Like you see something, it's cool. You have the money, oh yeah, that's awesome, it's a great card, I'd love to own that, whatever, and you buy it, and then it just you get it in hand, you get it in person, and like after a few weeks, a couple months, like it just doesn't stick, right? And then inevitably something else comes along that's maybe more core for you, or something that like really checks all the boxes, and then you sometimes want to move out of the stuff that you kind of bought impulsively and are less attached to, and then sometimes like when you get hurt on that stuff. So sometimes some of my worst beats, in the hobby has come as a result of just making an impulsive purchase and then probably not too long later, probably a few months later, trying to get out of it, and just
you have more patience than I. February was impulsive purchase month for me, and March is selling impulsive purchases. April, fingers crossed, is going to be good. Matt, I think you're going to know this. I'm almost confident you're going to know this. Give me your top 3 cards or top 3 players that are sold on my slabs in February. Do you have that info?
I haven't looked at it, but it would be Michael Jordan, Juan Soto, and probably Kobe Bryant last month, I believe.
One guy at the Atlanta show told me, and I'm going to see him again. I can't. Kobe was so last year, he said to me.
No, he made
to say that. The audacity to say that.
He made like a weird little bounce back in the fall, and I think people, at least in my circles, are actively searching for some of his rarer stuff. He fell off the map just like every other basketball player did last year, but he had like a weird little bounce back. I actually picked some nice deals up last year in the dip for him. Some not anything crazy rare, but like the Take It to the Net PSA 10s. And some of the other stuff, just like $5,000-$10,000 cards when they were previously much more. I figured it was a safe buy.
Do you think with Kobe, it's better to go autos, inserts from the 90s, because there are so many 90s insert collectors, or rookie cards?
Well, I mean, the rookies and the inserts kind of overlap there because he has all that. He was right at the insert boom in his rookie year. Personally, I don't think you could really go wrong long term. My theory has always been rookies and 90s parallels. I understand he can't sign anymore, but he still signed quite a bit. And actually, his autos now, you can get on-card autos from like nice sets in Gem for $2,500 now.
I was bamboozled. That was me. I bought that for $3,500.
Well, I mean, chances are they're going to spike again at some point because what goes around comes around. There's always some sort of catalyst, whether organic or not. I mean, what's you need? A documentary for the Lakers and everybody gets interested, or a Shaq documentary where they're trash talking each other. There's always going to be something that can propel that market. But my feeling has always been 90s inserts and refractors have such a large market, and you look at some of the people that are heavily in that, they're just always going to protect the pricing, whether on purpose or not. I mean, they don't care what they're spending. To me, that would be my choice.
If there's nothing else, I mean, Cage, jump in here, because I do agree. The protect the pricing thing is something that I've learned. Who owns the other types of cards that you're owning is a really interesting game to play, right? We have a theory that that's why Zion cards haven't tanked as much as they could, right? Because the people who actually underlying the high-end stuff. Yeah. But even his Prism base, Cage, it's the same price as Ja. He hasn't played all year. Ja's having right below MVP caliber season and the same price. It's pretty laughable.
He was still setting records through, last fall, and everybody knew he was out. I mean, his cards were just selling, and you have to look because, it isn't the guy buying, $1,000 cards trying to protect that market. It's obviously either people that really believe in him or have a whole lot of money behind him. But yeah, I mean, that's typically if you can figure out what markets are protected and play off those, you do well.
Juan Soto, so Michael Jordan, Kobe, sandwiched by a guy who
I believe it was Juan Soto. I'm almost positive.
No, but Juan Soto is like it passes the sniff test because Juan Soto was such high demand with the lockout and all that stuff. Yeah. We were 30 minutes in. Cage, I want to give you, if you have anything to say, any questions, or we can.
I was happy to talk about Juan Soto. I wanted to hear about Juan Soto, man. I mean, I want to.
We sold a lot of John Morant cards too. We'd have to look at the numbers.
I'm upset, man. Savages in the box. You remember that? Like my throwback to the Yankees. My guys are savages in the box. Like I'm upset. There's no baseball here. So I'm happy to hear. If Soto was a top seller, whether he's 2, 3, 5, whatever it is, it means people are expecting baseball. right? And people are prospecting on Soto. So that makes me happy to hear, actually. The news coming out of the talks between the owners and the players doesn't make me happy. It doesn't seem like they're close at all. But
No, I don't think they don't want to be close right now.
yeah, I get that sometimes. I get that with Andrew.
It's when they start missing games is when I think you start to see some movement.
Yep.
It's very true. Yeah, man. Okay, so I'm looking at the site. All right. If I have a really expensive card, right? A really expensive card. Let's just say, I don't know, $150,000, $200,000 card. The options to me are standard auction house, right? Maybe try to call Heritage, maybe Robert Edward, maybe Leland's, probably not Leland's, maybe Memory Lane if it's an old baseball card, and then Ken, he's doing his thing. Obviously, Ken's the name around. Ken gets the best prices, or PWCC. But every one of those places is going to charge a significant percent, right? Every one of those.
Time, Cage. Fuck,
what's
man.
up?
It's about to take so long.
Yeah, I mean that's true also, right? I mean, it takes even if you are lucky and you get something to them quickly, okay, this is going to go in this month's premier auction, right, or this month's, whatever it is. It still takes a couple of weeks for them to list it, and then it takes a couple of weeks for it to get auctioned off, and then a couple of weeks for the payment if you're lucky, and all that other fun stuff. You're talking about a couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe. Are you guys looking to play in that sphere? Is that something that's coming?
Well, yeah, to be honest with you, I'll let Ken talk over specifics, but we're definitely going to be dipping our toes in that market here this month. Ken, do you want to kind of go over the process for that?
High level, if it's all right. I don't want to drop any secrets.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, we definitely. I mean, we sell high end cards. We definitely every month. We have many 5-figure cards. That sell month in and month out. But with our current setup, PayPal does put limits on transaction limits. So right now that it is in the 50, 60K range. And then of course, there's the peer-to-peer, aspect of it. Where I think, all the names that you just mentioned, the auction houses, I mean, obviously they take in consignments, they're physically taking in the items. So I think there's just a degree of comfortability, with someone that's spending 6 figures on a card, that they're just, that there's some protection there, that they don't have to wait for this person, that they've never met before to ship them the card. So we just felt that if we want to start just, doing more of that type of business, and obviously, we have members that buy and sell at that level all the time. They're just, doing it more, in other venues, just because of maybe some of the things that, that I mentioned, so to maybe attempt to solve some of those problems, we're going to be doing like an escrow arrangement on the high end. Well, so obviously people that don't know each other are not going to be shipping to each other. They're going to be shipping to, a third party, Ship My Cards, who is, they do have an excellent reputation, and Matt knows the owner for quite a while, so we do trust them to the utmost. And we're obviously sellers are going to ship the items there, and then before the buyer's funds get released to the seller, we are going to be able to verify that the item is what it's supposed to be, and it's in the condition that it's supposed to be in before the seller gets any money. So that in conjunction with a lower fee structure. We haven't pinned down exactly what that is yet. I mean, it's definitely going to be. We're going to do a 0% seller fee. There's going to be a buyer premium, 5% or less. We just have to figure out exactly what our overhead is going to be. So we're still in the final stages of pinning that down, but we're going to try to just offer a very, very competitive fee structure with that impartial third set of hands in the middle of the transaction to hopefully give people that extra layer of comfortability to do more high-end transactions. So, I mean, are we going to steal the high-end market? Are we going to like dominate? No, I would never come on here and say that. But, you know, listen, obviously the hobby's a big place. There's a lot to go around. And I think if we do these types of things, we can take more of that market share.
In my mind, the bottom line in that market, most of those cards are typically reserved for auction houses because of the safety, security, and you generally know you're going to get a good price. What we intend to offer is speed with the payments and the shipments that can't be matched anywhere with the lowest fee structure possible. Theoretically, if you buy a $250,000 card on our site as a buyer, because of the way it's going to be set up, you're never in danger of losing your money. And as a seller, you're never in danger of losing that card. The money's going to be tied up in escrow. The card's going to ship my cards, so nobody can receive anything they're not supposed to. In theory, if you buy that $250,000 card from me on Friday night, myself as the seller, as fast as I can get that card to our Ship My Cards, theoretically you can be paid in 24 to 48 hours. The minute that hits the My Slabs account, we're going to be notified. You're going to get that money if all is good. And as the buyer, where typically you'd have to wait 3 to 4 weeks for your item, you can choose to have that shipped immediately from Ship My Cards or stored in their vault facility. So all of these high-end transactions that typically take 3 to 4 weeks to get paid and or receive your item could be a thing of the past. And the kind of understated part of this here is the sellers are going to have their items in their possession. So if all of a sudden they change their mind, or somebody gives them an offer off-site or a deal, whatever, they can pull the card. They have it in their possession. They can go elsewhere with that deal. They aren't kind of at the auction house's mercy, right, where they would never get the card back.
Right.
And Matt, I would assume the reverse is also true. Let's say I met someone on Instagram or Facebook. I could also say, why don't we make the deal on My Slabs and bring the customer over, both the buyer and the seller?
Absolutely.
1% on both sides, but I have a trusted middleman third party. So,
and for anybody that isn't familiar, I would encourage you to look into Ship My Cards. They're a huge, huge outfit. This is business as usual for them. When I presented them this idea a couple of years ago, as far as just the escrow thing, they were all about it. They've made us a priority so far. We have a large international membership, and they predominantly use Ship My Cards. They ship some massive stuff overseas and even through the U.S. because they have an Oregon facility, so people take advantage of the Oregon facility. So this is not a kind of mom and pop overnight pop-up company. These guys are legitimate. They're the best in the business. So if you don't know them, I would encourage you to Google them, check them out. They're just good people, good business people all the way around.
Yeah, and that's just one quick point, kind of to touch on what you said, Matt. Like, if you want to sell something through high-end item and you're going to consign it to an auction house, like, there's some auction risk there, right? Like it's going to sell, but there's no guarantee what it's going to sell for. And like, once it's out of your possession, it's gone, right? They're going to sell it to somebody and that thing's gone. Like, what if you're somebody that, maybe you're open to selling something, but, you want to get a certain price and if you can't get a certain price, you don't want to sell it and you just kind of want to put it out there into the wild and see if you get offers on it or whatever the case may be. Obviously, as opposed to doing it through like an auction, to do it through like an arrangement that we're going to set up. I mean, you have more flexibility.
You'll have all the leverage as a seller. We're growing extremely rapidly. I mean, in this model, you can market that card to, we're coming up on 50,000 accounts right now and growing, like I said, really fast. So you can put it out there as a seller. If it doesn't sell and you get a deal elsewhere, I mean, it's in my mind the cleanest and most efficient way to sell a high-end card.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking about, because this has happened to me a bunch of times, where something will come up in an auction and it's, a big card. And I'm like, oh man, I don't really want to go in my pocket for all this. Maybe and then I pass on it because I don't want to spend $200,000, you know. But I happen to have another card that I would trade for that, but I can't call Ken Golden and say, "Hey Ken, I know this is for sale and it's 5 days to go on the auction." You think the buyer might take my PSA 10 Jordan rookie for that Charizard PSA 10? You think the seller might do that? You want to try to work that deal out? No. I can do that at a show, sure. But now what it seems like is I can take that Jordan PSA 10 listed on my slabs with you guys, and if there's a week left in the auction, I might actually have the money to pay for the card when I win it on somebody else's auction. Like, you're providing liquidity there. So, to me, that's a huge, huge benefit. And you're right, because, people listening might be like, oh, well, why wouldn't you just put it on your story? Well, I'm popular, but, chances are I'm not going to be able to move that on a story. And I'm definitely not going to get as many people looking at that card on my story on Instagram as you guys are going to get eyeballs on it on my slabs.
Yep.
So pretty cool.
Well, and we are growing rapidly. I would say that, but it's kind of exponentially at this point. And
Matt, so am I, but it's COVID's fault. I'm saying that. I don't get a lot of exercise, and, I love Chick-fil-A, so I'm growing rapidly too. But I'm trying.
This sweatshirt's covering up a mess here.
If someone's on the other end of this audience, are you guys hiring? Are you looking for any talent?
To be honest with you, like we're currently, no. That's not, we're the truth of it is, like, anytime that we do bring anybody on, we go out to the My Slabs community, and usually, like, we get people immediately. Like right now we have a team of probably like a dozen people, 12, 15 people. Most of them are hourly resources, so we definitely, obviously we haven't gone out to the equity market, so we're not sitting on a pile of cash to go out and just hire, a whole corporate infrastructure of people.
You're building business the old fashioned way, the good way. With a little twist of being remote though, which is a huge benefit.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. And listen, obviously the kind of like having people hourly is it kind of works for us, because obviously the card business is 24/7, right? Like, it's not like the card business is the kind of thing where you can come in at 9 and punch a clock and leave at 5 and clock out on Friday and see you on Monday. Obviously we have customer service inquiries that are coming in literally around the clock. So I think that being able to kind of have remote staff and people work flexibly, like I think that it, we have people that are, answering inquiries, anytime on the weekends, here, there. Like, I think it just really lends itself to our business.
Do you guys hear
that?
Ice cream?
I hear it.
It's very difficult to be thin. I hear the ice cream truck.
It's March.
We knew.
Is it nice spring weather?
Not by me. It's cold and rainy here, but I want ice cream now. That was awesome. I want some ice cream.
You guys hustle in New York. Like, the ice cream man's like, "Yo, what do you need from me? I need to make $1. I don't care. It's 30 degrees outside."
Awesome. Ice cream. That's awesome.
To the point of the employees, we knew we were going to have to bulk up customer service staff considerably when we opened up the raw division, strictly because of all the kind of nuances and issues that go with that. The first thing we did was hire people we know well from the industry, from the remote positions, group subbers, people that have been in the industry for decades and are familiar with handling raw on a large scale. So that it's kind of a well we can tap anytime we want. And we're smart enough to know as we grow, we're going to have to staff up again. But the reason we were so confident with the raw cards is because we knew we were going to have people that have been involved in the industry forever, running it, helping out with it.
All of our customer service people, man, they're all card people. They're all people that.
And they're all trained by Matt, so they're all good to go.
It's true, man.
I'm pretty sure half of them hate me right now. Like, we all have one group conversation we stay in touch with all day. I'm pretty sure they've created another one at this point.
Be nice to your people. Nobody likes, being told that they're entitled. Nobody likes, when the boss yells at them.
I don't yell. Plus, it's impossible to yell on Messenger. I do the all caps.
That's very true. That's the remote world. It's a different place, man. It's a different. It's a different.
No,
it's a
we have a great group of people. All seriousness aside, we do. We have a tremendous group of individuals involved right now.
And shout out to David Owens, guys, Riverfront Collectables. I think most of you probably follow him. He runs social for My Slabs, and he's the one that puts us in touch oftentimes. So, thank you if you're listening. I really appreciate it. Luca Nation, that's another episode. Big week, lots going on. Be on the lookout for more guest episodes, really, really cool guests coming, and some other fun stuff. And I have a play that I'm excited for. I was going to give it on this episode. I'll save it for tomorrow. But it's a soccer play, guys. Be on the lookout.
I don't.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate coming on here. It's always fun.
Listen, Luca Nation, if your interest was piqued by My Slabs, whether you might not have used them before, reach out to these guys. If you got questions, I'm sure they got customer service ready to answer your questions, walk you through the process of listing, buying, selling, you name it. And they got a lot of cards on there. Just take a look at the site. Take a look at what they have on My Slab. I mean, everything from crazy comics and slabs, crazy cards. You can kind of get lost for a couple hours just looking at some of the stuff that people put up for sale on there. Pretty high end stuff. It's pretty nuts. So these guys are really approachable. They're very friendly, and you can't beat what they're charging for for selling on their platform. So if you got any questions, reach out to these guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.